A storm clawed across the Irish coastline as the lamps of Duncliffe Manor flickered like dying sentinels. Within its ancient stone halls, a body lay sprawled across the marble floor, its expression frozen in terror, as though the final sight had been something unspeakable. The servants whispered of curses older than the cliffs, while the family muttered of inheritance, revenge, and secrets better left buried. When the famed Belgian detective Hercule Poirot arrived, his little grey cell stirred at once. Something was wrong, terribly wrong, and before the night ended, another scream would echo through the manor. Chapter 1. The Manor of Whispers. The rain fell in sheets, harsh and relentless, as though the heavens themselves were warning Hercule Poirot not to continue his journey. The motor car shuddered along the winding coastal road, its lanterns slicing through the storm's chaotic darkness. Ireland, Poirot reflected, possessed a different kind of quiet than England, a silence that did not comfort but observed, as though the land itself listened. Thunder cracked across the cliffs, followed by the roaring crash of waves smashing into the jagged black rocks far below. The driver, a wiry local man with a face carved by weather and age, muttered a prayer under his breath. "Bad night for travel, sir. Very bad night." Poirot adjusted his hat with calm precision. "Ah, but crimes, mon ami, do not wait for pleasant weather." The man said nothing more. At last, Duncliffe Manor emerged through the fog. A great brooding fortress of dark stone perched perilously at the cliff's edge. Its many chimneys rose like watchtowers against the sky, and its tall windows glowed faintly, flickering as though struggling against the storm's wrath. A crooked iron gate creaked open with a groan, allowing them passage. Poirot stepped out. An icy wind slapped his face instantly, tugging at his coat. Standing before the enormous manor, he felt something shift in the air, an unease, subtle but unmistakable. Not fear, not yet, but anticipation. A door opened above him. A woman stood framed in yellow lamplight, tall, elegant, wrapped in a dark emerald shawl whose fringe whipped in the wind. Her auburn hair clung damply to her temples. The unmistakable look of desperation glimmered in her eyes. "Mr. Poirot!" she called, raising her voice above the storm. "Over here!" Poirot climbed the stone steps briskly. "Lady Moira Duncliffe," he said with a small bow as he reached her. "I came as quickly as the telegram allowed. Please, come inside." Her voice trembled. "You must see him at once." Inside, the manor swallowed them in darkness and cold. Only a few candles lit the expansive hall, their flames writhing like anxious spirits. The marble floor gleamed faintly, reflecting the ornate tapestries and portraits that haunted the walls. Every frame contained a Duncliffe ancestor, whose eyes seemed to follow Poirot with suspicion. Lady Moira led him into a great chamber at the centre of the manor, one designed for receptions and grand gatherings, but currently filled with dread. Poirot's face softened, his eyes narrowing with sorrow. A body lay in the centre of the floor. Lord Henry Duncliffe, patriarch of the family, owner of half the land in this region, and a man known for his severe temperament and iron rule, was stretched on the marble like a fallen statue. His hands were frozen mid-reach, his mouth partly open, his eyes wide with something between shock and terror. Poirot knelt beside him, fingertips hovering delicately as his little grey cells awakened with interest. "Unusual," Poirot murmured, "very unusual." Lady Moira swallowed, her voice barely audible. "Everyone insists his death was natural, but I know it was not. Something killed him, Mr. Poirot. Something or someone." Poirot did not answer immediately. He studied the body from every angle, absorbing each clue like a painter studying a canvas. No wound, no blood, no sign of struggle, only the expression. A man who believed he saw death before it claimed him. Poirot stood. "Madame, where were you when this happened?" "In my sitting room. I heard a sound, a heavy thud. I came down immediately and found him like this." Poirot gently touched her arm. "And no one else was present?" She shook her head. "The servants are terrified. They speak of curses, ghosts on the cliffs, old Irish tales." "Superstition," Poirot said with a soft scoff. "There is always a human explanation." A voice echoed through the hall behind them. "Not always." Sir Alistair Duncliffe, the late Lord's son, entered with the heavy stride of a man accustomed to command. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed impeccably, but with a sharpness in his movements that betrayed unease. The candlelight cut harshly across his face, etching the tension in his features. He stopped before Poirot. "You must be the detective Mother insisted on calling." Poirot inclined his head. "Sir Alistair." Alistair's eyes flicked toward the body. "This investigation is unnecessary. Father's heart was weak. The doctor warned him for months. He refused treatment. His death was inevitable." Poirot's gaze sharpened. "Is that so?" "Yes." Alistair stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I understand Mother is fragile after this tragedy, but we don't need some foreign inspector stirring chaos." Poirot locked eyes with him calmly. "I am not here to stir chaos, monsieur. I am here to reveal truth." Lady Moira inhaled sharply, her fingers trembling. "Alistair, please. For your sake, Mother," he continued, "accept what happened." Lady Moira's eyes glistened, not merely from grief, but from something deeper. Fear. Poirot quietly observed the exchange, storing it away. Then he turned toward the room's far corner. A young woman stood there, half hidden by shadows, slender, trembling, clutching a rosary so tightly it cut into her skin. She wore a maid's uniform, her dark hair escaping in damp curls across her forehead. Poirot walked toward her. "Mademoiselle," he said gently, "you are Bridget, yes?" She nodded quickly. Yes, sir." "You found Lord Duncliffe?" "No, sir. Lady Moira did." Her gaze darted between Poirot and the body. "But I heard something earlier, in the hall, a voice." "What voice?" "A man's, low, angry." "And did you recognize it?" Bridget swallowed. "No. Or maybe, I'm not sure." Poirot watched her closely. Her fear was genuine, but something else lingered beneath it. A secret. A memory she dared not speak. He would coax it out in time. A loud crack of thunder rattled the windows, followed by a shuddering groan through the manor's ancient beams. The candles flickered violently, and for a moment the entire hall plunged into semi-darkness. Poirot turned toward the windows. The storm was worsening. "Madam," he said to Lady Moira, "you must tell me exactly what occurred before your husband died." Lady Moira clutched her shawl. "He had been restless all week. He said he saw things, heard footsteps outside his study, someone calling his name from the cliffs." Alistair snorted. "He was hallucinating, nothing more." "No," Moira insisted. "He was sober, clear-minded, and terrified." Poirot tapped his chin thoughtfully. "And did he receive any letters? Messages?" Lady Moira hesitated. "Yes, one, just one, anonymously delivered, but he burned it before I could read it." Poirot smiled thinly. Always a sign of importance. As he prepared to inspect the study, the lights suddenly flickered again, harder this time. A gust of wind howled through the corridors like a living creature. Then it happened. A shattering scream erupted from the upper floor, piercing, chilling, unmistakably human. Bridget gasped, dropping her rosary. Lady Moira clamped a hand over her mouth. Sir Alistair grabbed a candle, eyes widening. Poirot stiffened. "Stay close," he commanded. They ascended the grand staircase, shadows leaping around them. The storm's roar muffling the rapid beats of their footsteps. The scream had come from the west corridor. A long, narrow hallway lined with centuries-old portraits whose painted faces twisted eerily in the candlelight. Bridget pointed with a shaking hand. "Someone was standing there, I swear it." Poirot scanned the corridor. Empty. The storm boomed again, rattling the windows. Suddenly, another sound. A sharp crack, a window shattering somewhere deeper inside the manor. Poirot walked slowly toward Lady Moira's sitting room, candlelight trembling across his moustached face. The window had indeed shattered inward. Shards of glass sparkled across the Persian carpet. The curtains billowed inward with the wind. Poirot approached the window frame, touching the broken edges. "Not broken by wind," he whispered. "This required force." Lady Moira pressed against the wall. "There's something in this house." Poirot raised a finger. "Not something, madame. Someone." He looked at the floor. Near the shattered window was a single footprint, muddy, heavy, trailing a faint pattern of coarse soil. Cliff soil. Bridget whispered, "No one has gone outside since the storm began." Poirot straightened. "My friends," he said quietly, "we are no longer dealing with a simple death." He turned toward the dark corridor. "Someone is in this manor, someone who does not wish us here." And then, without warning, a voice drifted through the dark. A whisper, soft, chilling, almost taunting. "Leave this place." Everyone froze. Poirot's candle flickered violently. He stepped forward, every muscle steady, every sense sharpened. "A haunted house," he murmured. "No, a house with secrets." But before he could take another step, another scream pierced the air, closer, this time unmistakably real. And Poirot, his little grey cells electrified by danger, whispered, "Ah, the game begins." Chapter 2. The shadow behind the door. The night settled over the small town like a heavy blanket, swallowing the last hints of daylight until only the faint orange glow of streetlights remained. Sarah stood in her living room, staring at the file Detective Harris had given her. Every page felt heavier than the one before. Dates, times, eyewitness statements, phone records. Her own name highlighted multiple times. It was as if someone had carefully rewritten her life into a crime she didn't commit. But the more she read, the more she realized something chilling. Whoever framed her knew things about her past she had never told anyone. Not the neighbors, not her friends, not even her closest colleague. Secrets she thought were buried years ago were now resurrecting with sharp claws. A sudden knock at the door snapped her out of her thoughts. She stiffened. It was nearly midnight. No one should be visiting at this hour. The knock came again, firmer, more deliberate. Her heartbeat quickened as she moved slowly toward the door, every step echoing louder in her ears. She peered through the peephole. Nothing. No one stood outside. Just the empty hallway with its flickering bulb. She hesitated, her breath shallow. Was it a prank, a neighbor, or someone testing her presence? Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "Don't open the door!" Sarah felt her palms go cold. She stepped back instinctively, her mind firing in every direction. Who was texting her? Were they watching her? The phone pinged again. He's still there. Her breath hitched. She crept back to the peephole, but the hallway looked exactly the same. Still empty, silent, but the uneasy weight in her stomach told her the message wasn't a joke. She typed quickly, "Who are you?" No response. Seconds passed, then minutes. The silence stretched like a wire ready to snap. Finally, she moved away from the door and sat on her couch, trying to steady her breathing. She had barely settled when the sound came. Soft, slow, dragging footsteps. Someone was walking outside her apartment, each step painfully deliberate, like they wanted her to hear them. She held her breath. The footsteps stopped directly in front of her door. Sarah clamped a hand over her mouth, afraid even her breathing would betray her presence. A whisper, barely audible, brushed against the bottom of the door. "Sarah!" Her blood froze. It was a man's voice, rough, familiar in a way she couldn't place. She didn't move, didn't blink, didn't even dare to swallow. The silence lasted only a moment before the door handle slowly turned. Someone was trying to open it. She lunged toward the small wooden drawer by the couch, fumbling for the kitchen knife she hid inside. Her hands trembled uncontrollably as the handle rattled again, harder this time. Then everything stopped. The building creaked, the hallway went quiet. The air itself felt suspended. Moments later, a sharp knock shattered the silence, this time loud and official. "Sarah, it's Detective Harris, open the door." Sarah pressed her back against the wall, unsure whether to move. What if it wasn't him? What if the voice was being mimicked? What if she opened the door only to find the man whose whisper echoed in her mind? Her phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. "It's safe. Open it." Her stomach tightened. Was she really trusting an anonymous texter? But something about the timing, something about the urgency, made her feel they weren't trying to harm her. She stepped forward, knife still in hand, and unlocked the door. Detective Harris stood there, alone, a tired look on his face. But Sarah's eyes shot immediately past him, scanning the hallway left and right. "No one. Harris," she whispered. "Someone was just here." He raised a brow. "What do you mean?" "He whispered my name under the door. He tried to open it." Harris's calm demeanor shattered for a moment. He stepped inside quickly, shutting the door behind him, his hand instinctively resting near his holster. He scanned the room, then looked at her trembling hands, her wide eyes, and the knife she was still gripping tightly. "Put that down," he said gently. "Tell me everything." She explained the knock, the text messages, the whisper, the turning door handle. Harris listened carefully, his jaw tightening with every detail. "When did you get the first message?" "Right after the knock." He held out his hand. "Let me see your phone." She hesitated but handed it over. He studied the messages and his face darkened. "This number, it's scrambled. Whoever texted you is masking their identity." "Do you believe me?" she asked, voice barely steady. "I believe someone's playing a dangerous game," he replied. He walked back to the door, examining the knob. "There are fresh scratches here. Someone tried to pick the lock." Sarah's heart dropped. She wasn't imagining it. She wasn't losing her mind. Someone was indeed after her. Harris turned to her. "Sarah, I need you to tell me something, and I need you to be completely honest. Is there anyone from your past, anyone at all, who might want to hurt you?" Her throat tightened. Images from years ago fluttered in her mind, memories she had tried desperately to forget. A name surfaced, one she wished had stayed gone. But before she could speak it, her lights flickered, then went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Harris cursed softly. "Stay close." Sarah reached out, her fingers brushing his jacket. The room felt colder now, like the shadows themselves were leaning in. Then, from somewhere deep inside the apartment, farther back, near the bedroom, came a soft creak. A floorboard bending under someone's weight. Harris drew his gun, his voice low and firm. "Sarah, move behind me, slowly!" Her blood ran cold. Someone was inside her home. She moved behind him, her hands shaking uncontrollably, her breath ragged. Harris took quiet steps forward, his gun raised, every muscle in his body tight as a bowstring. "Police!" he called out into the dark. "Show yourself!" Nothing. Another creak. Then silence, so absolute it rang in her ears. Harris flicked on his small tactical flashlight, sweeping the narrow beam across the living room, then the hallway. Shadows stretched and twisted with each movement of the light. They reached the bedroom door, slightly open, though Sarah was certain she had left it fully closed earlier. She grabbed Harris's sleeve. "He's in there. I know he is." Harris nodded once, his jaw rigid. He pushed the door open with his foot and aimed the flashlight inside. The room was empty, or so it seemed. Everything was in place except for one thing. On her bed, lying neatly, as if someone had placed it there intentionally, was a small envelope. Harris approached slowly and lifted it with gloved hands. Sarah's heart hammered as she watched him turn it over. Her name was written on the front in bold black ink. He opened it. Inside was a single photograph. Sarah felt her lungs collapse. It was a picture of her, taken earlier that same evening. She was in her living room, holding the file Harris had given her. The angle was from the outside of her apartment window. Someone had been watching her. Harris's expression turned grim. "We need to get you out of here." But before they could move, Sarah's phone buzzed again. The unknown number. "I told you not to open the door." Then another message. "You only survived tonight because I let you." Her legs nearly gave out. Harris grabbed her arm to steady her. "Sarah, whoever this is, they're escalating. You're not safe here. You're not safe anywhere alone." Tears stung her eyes, not from fear, but from realization. This wasn't random. This wasn't a prank. This was personal. She whispered the name she had tried to forget. "Harris, I think I know who might be behind this." He turned to her sharply. "Who?" Her voice cracked. "The man I sent to prison 5 years ago." The room felt like it shrank, the air thickening with dread. And then Sarah said the words that made Harris's face turn pale. "He's out." Chapter 3. The Man Who Returned. The weight of Sarah's confession hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to crack open. Detective Harris stared at her, his features tightening as the implications sank in. "You're telling me," he said slowly, "that the man you testified against, the one convicted of attempted murder, is out of prison now?" Sarah nodded, her breath trembling. "Early release," she whispered. "Sentence reduction for good behavior." The bitterness in her voice made the room feel even colder. Harris raked a hand through his hair. "And no one thought to notify you?" She shook her head. "I only found out a month ago. But I didn't think he would come for me this soon." Harris stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Sarah, you need to tell me everything. What happened between you two? Why he targeted you, and why he might still be obsessed." She swallowed hard, feeling her chest tighten as the past clawed its way back to the surface. "His name is Daniel Cade," she began. "He wasn't always violent. At first, he was charming, too charming. He became obsessed with me fast, showing up at my workplace, sending flowers, leaving notes on my car. I tried to ignore it. I tried to be polite, but when I finally told him to stop, he snapped." Her fingers dug into her palms. "One night, he broke into my old apartment. He waited in the dark with a knife. I barely escaped. He swore he would come back for me." Harris listened silently, his jaw tight. "You should have been notified the second he was released," he muttered. "This changes everything." He paced the living room, his boots thudding softly on the floor. If Daniel is behind this, he's not hiding anymore. He's playing with you, mocking you. The messages, the whisper, the photograph. He wants you afraid. He wants you cornered. A tremor ran through her. "He said I survived because he let me." Her voice trailed off, fear curling around her ribs like ice. Harris looked at her with grim seriousness. "That means he could have killed you tonight. He was inside your home, Sarah. He's escalating. And the worst kind of predator is the one who thinks he controls the game." Sarah sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. Everything around her felt surreal, like she was trapped inside someone else's nightmare. Harris sat beside her, not too close, but close enough that she felt a sliver of safety. "Look at me," he said. She lifted her tear-brimmed eyes. "You're not alone anymore. We're going to handle this strategically. But I need you to trust me completely. No hiding information, no downplaying danger." She nodded weakly. "I trust you." He stood, urgency returning to his posture. "Pack a few essentials. You're not staying here tonight. I'll get you a protected place until we figure this out." Sarah hesitated. "Where will we go?" "A secure location," he replied. "Not a police station. Daniel might anticipate that. Somewhere quiet, somewhere he won't expect." She rose shakily and walked toward her bedroom. When she flipped the light switch, the overhead light flickered once, then steadied. She froze. The room still felt tainted, like Daniel's shadow lingered in the corners. She grabbed a small bag, stuffing clothes, documents, chargers, anything she could think of. When she reached the drawer where she kept old letters, her hand trembled as she saw one envelope peeking out, slightly pulled forward. She hadn't touched that drawer in months. Slowly, she opened it. Inside, beneath the old papers, was a folded sheet she had never seen before. Fresh paper, fresh ink, a new message. Her throat dried as she unfolded it. "You can run again, but I still remember your heartbeat." Her legs nearly buckled. "Harris!" she called, her voice cracking. He rushed into the room, and his expression hardened when he saw the note. "This was here," she nodded. "He left it before we arrived." Harris scanned the edges, the corners, the dresser. "He went through your belongings. He stood right here, long enough to plant this." Sarah hugged her arms around herself, feeling exposed, violated. "He wants me to relive it," she whispered, "exactly how it happened last time." Harris placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "Listen to me. Daniel doesn't get to write the story this time. We do. But we need to move now." Within minutes they were out of the apartment, Harris guiding her swiftly down the back stairwell to avoid surveillance. The night air outside felt colder, sharper, wrapping around Sarah like a warning. Harris's unmarked car sat parked under a dim streetlight. Before opening the door, he scanned the area carefully, eyes narrowing at every corner, every shadow. Only when he was certain did he usher her inside. As they drove, the quiet hum of the engine felt almost soothing, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on her. She turned to the window, watching the passing houses blur into darkness. "Do you think he's following us?" she asked. Harris's fingers tightened on the steering wheel. "If he is, he won't get close. I'm watching every mirror." His eyes flicked to the rear view, sharp and calculating. "No car has kept pace with us yet." After 20 minutes, they turned onto a narrow road leading away from the main town. Trees lined both sides like silent sentinels. Sarah swallowed. Where are we going?" "A safe cottage," Harris replied. "Old family property. Remote, secure. No one knows I use it." She nodded, trusting his judgment even as dread churned inside her. The cottage came into view, a small, sturdy structure tucked behind tall pines, its porch lamp casting a soft glow. Harris parked close to the entrance. "Stay behind me," he said as he stepped out, scanning the surroundings before motioning her forward. Inside, the cottage smelled faintly of cedar. It was simple, clean, and quiet, exactly what she needed. "For now," Harris said, locking the door behind them. "You'll be safe here. Tomorrow morning, we plan our next move." Sarah sat on the edge of the couch, her nerves still thrumming. "Do you think he'll come here?" Harris met her gaze. "Not tonight. He doesn't know this place exists." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed from inside her bag. Her blood drained. She wasn't connected to Wi-Fi. There was barely any signal here. Yet the notification came through. With trembling hands, she lifted the phone. One message from the same unknown number. "Nice cottage." Sarah's scream caught in her throat as the phone slipped from her fingers and hit the floor. Harris grabbed his gun, and the nightmare took its next step. Chapter 4. The Eye in the Dark. The message lingered on the screen like a breath on the back of Sarah's neck, invisible yet unmistakably real. Harris snatched the phone, his expression hardening into something colder than fear. Calculating, predatory, the look of a man who had just realized the rules of the game had changed. "He shouldn't know where we are," he muttered, scanning the cottage windows, each one covered only by thin curtains. "No one should know, not even my captain." Sarah stood frozen beside the couch, her fingers trembling so violently she had to clasp them together. "Harris, how is he doing this? How does he know everything?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked to the front door, checked the deadbolt, and quietly pulled aside the curtain to peer out into the night. The forest loomed beyond the porch, dark and unbroken except for the faint rustle of wind through the pines. "He's watching," Harris said softly, voice tight with controlled anger. "Somewhere close, far enough not to be seen, close enough to see us." Sarah hugged herself, feeling the familiar coil of panic tighten in her chest. "We should call for backup." Harris shook his head. "No police, not yet. If he's monitoring communications, any unusual activity will tip him off, and if I bring officers here, he'll vanish again." He walked back toward her, lowering his voice. "Sarah, listen to me. Daniel is meticulous. He plans every step. The fact that he already knew about this cottage means he has resources, time, and access." Her breath hitched. "What do you mean, access?" He met her eyes, the weight of his concern terrifying. "It means he's been watching you far longer than tonight. Maybe weeks, maybe months." She sank onto the couch, her knees giving way. The room felt smaller, walls closing in, the silence between each heartbeat too loud. Harris crouched in front of her. "Tell me again, did anything unusual happen recently? Anyone new around you? Anything at all?" She shook her head, tears building. "I don't know. I've been so focused on trying to live normally that I might have ignored signs." "Then think," Harris urged gently. "Take your time." She closed her eyes, forcing herself back through the last few weeks. The grocery clerk, the new neighbor, the lost dog flyer on her door. None of it stood out, until one image flickered through her memory like a match being struck. "The repairman," she whispered. Harris straightened. "What repairman?" "About 10 days ago. My apartment building said they were checking electrical wiring on all floors. A man in uniform came by. He looked legitimate. I didn't let him inside, but he inspected the breaker box in the hallway. Harris's face darkened. Did he ask questions? Sarah nodded slowly. He asked if I lived alone, if I worked from home, if I travelled often. Harris swore under his breath. That wasn't a repairman. That was Daniel, or someone working for him. He was gathering information. A shiver ran through her, icy and sharp. So he had access to my building, maybe even my floor. Harris nodded grimly. And if he got close enough to your door, close enough to the wiring, he could have installed something, Sarah whispered. A camera, a microphone. Harris didn't have to answer. The silence confirmed it. Before he could say more, a soft sound broke through the cottage, so faint it could have been imagined. A creak, a shift of weight on old wood. Harris's head snapped toward the back hallway, his entire posture changing, predator alert to predator. Stay here, he murmured. Do not move. Sarah clutched the edge of the couch as he moved silently down the hallway. Gun drawn, every footstep measured. She listened, breath held, as he opened the bedroom door, then the bathroom, then the storage closet. Each silence stretched unbearably until finally he returned. No one inside, he said, but something's wrong. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? Harris walked to the small kitchen window and pointed. The frost on the glass, fragile, intricate, had a single streak through it, as if someone had dragged a finger down from the outside. Fresh, Harris said, very fresh. Sarah covered her mouth to muffle a gasp. She felt hunted, exposed, like prey in a clearing, surrounded by trees where anything could be watching. Harris turned off the interior lights one by one until the cottage was steeped in darkness, the only glow coming from the dim embers of the old fireplace. We're safer unseen, he said. If he's looking in, he'll lose visibility. Sarah joined him by the window, though she kept back, afraid of being silhouetted. Outside, the forest seemed alive, shadows shifting with every gust of wind, branches swaying like silhouettes of figures waiting just beyond reach. Hours passed in tense silence. Harris stayed alert, watching, listening, every muscle taut. Sarah drifted in and out of uneasy half-sleep, her head resting against the arm of the couch, until a sudden thud jolted her upright. Harris was already standing. Did you hear that? Her breath quickened. Yes. He motioned for her to stay behind him as he approached the sound, a small noise near the back door, like something falling or being placed gently on the porch. Very slowly, Harris cracked the door open. A single object sat on the steps, a small wooden music box. Sarah's blood ran cold. That's mine, she whispered. My grandmother's. It was in my bedroom drawer. Harris's jaw tightened as he carefully picked it up. He's not testing the locks, he murmured. He's testing our reactions. He set the music box on the table and opened it. The tune began to play softly, a delicate lullaby. But beneath the melody, taped onto the inside lid, was another note. Harris pulled it off, unfolded it and read aloud, You hide well, Sarah, but you always did love lullabies. Her knees buckled, and Harris caught her, guiding her into a chair. She felt faint, the room spinning as the music played on, haunting and sweet. He was inside again, she whispered. He took it from my apartment. He planned this. Harris nodded grimly. He planned everything. Before he could say more, a new sound broke the silence. A car engine, slow, approaching. Headlights swept across the trees. Harris moved to the window, eyes sharp. Sarah's pulse hammered painfully in her ears. Is it him? She whispered. Harris didn't answer, not for several seconds. Finally, in a voice low and tight, I don't know, but whoever it is. He clicked the safety off his gun. They're coming straight for us. Chapter 5. The Visitor at Midnight. The headlights carved through the darkness like two white blades, slicing across the pines and glinting against the cottage windows. Sarah felt her stomach twist as the vehicle rolled closer, the hum of its engine steady and deliberate, as if the driver wanted them to hear every inch of their approach. Harris stood perfectly still, his profile carved in the dim light, gun raised with steady precision. "Stay low," he whispered, never taking his eyes off the approaching car. Sarah crouched behind the arm of the couch, her breath shallow. A part of her wanted to squeeze her eyes shut and pray the car would pass. But another part, stronger now, forced her gaze to stay fixed on Harris, the only anchor in this storm. The vehicle came to a stop about 20 feet from the porch. The headlights cut out, plunging the cottage back into near darkness. Only the faint glow of the moon filtered through the trees, casting long, eerie shadows. For several seconds, nothing happened. No door opened, no movement, just silence thick enough to choke on. Sarah's heartbeat counted each second, her nerves fraying, her hands trembling so violently she had to press them against the floorboards. Harris shifted his stance slightly, every muscle ready to fire. "Whoever's in that car," he murmured, "they want us uncertain." Sarah swallowed hard. "Is it Daniel?" Harris didn't answer. He was focused too intently, too sharply, calculating every sound. Finally, the driver's side door creaked open. A figure stepped out, slow, measured, as though careful not to provoke. Sarah leaned just enough to see the silhouette. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a heavy coat. The man moved toward the porch, boots crunching on gravel. Harris aimed directly at him. "Stop right there," he called, voice like steel wrapped in warning. The man froze. "Easy," he replied, raising both hands. His voice was gravelly, older than Daniel's. "Detective Harris, it's me." Harris stiffened. "Who's me?" The man stepped closer to the faint glow of the porch light, revealing his face. Weathered, stern, with deep-set eyes. "Frank Dolan," he said, "local sheriff. Your uncle called me." Harris's brows shot up for the first time that night. "My uncle? He said you'd be up here. Said you might need backup." Sarah didn't relax. Something about the timing was wrong. Too perfect, too convenient. Harris lowered his weapon only slightly. "My uncle doesn't even know I use this cottage. He hasn't in years." The sheriff shifted uncomfortably. "Well, he knew enough to tell me you'd be here." Harris stepped onto the porch, gun still at his side. "If you're really Sheriff Dolan, prove it." Dolan handed over his badge. Harris examined it under the porch light. It looked legitimate. Worn edges, proper engravings, official markings. Still, Harris's skepticism remained visible in every line of his body. "Why are you here?" he asked. Dolan exhaled. "We caught a call. Someone reported screaming coming from this direction. Dispatch couldn't identify the caller." Sarah felt cold wash over her. She looked at Harris. He didn't look surprised. "He's watching us," Harris murmured. "He wants to escalate. Draw more people in." Dolan looked between them, confusion sliding into concern. "What the hell is going on here?" Harris hesitated, long enough that Sarah saw him weighing the risk of trusting anyone. Finally, he motioned Dolan inside. "Lock the door behind you." Dolan obeyed, stepping into the dimly lit cottage. His eyes landed on Sarah first. "You must be the woman the caller mentioned." She nodded weakly. "Sarah." Dolan tipped his hat slightly. "Ma'am?" Harris pulled Dolan aside. "We're dealing with someone, highly dangerous. Someone who knows this location and our movements. I don't know how deep this goes." Dolan straightened. "Then let me help," I've been sheriff in this county for 18 years. I've seen my share of monsters." Before Harris could respond, a sharp metallic clink echoed outside. Sarah jumped. Harris spun toward the window, weapon raised again. Dolan reached for his holster. "What was that?" Sarah whispered. Harris moved toward the window, staying low. "Something on the gravel." Dolan edged toward the back door silently, gesturing for Harris to circle around. They moved with trained precision, one watching the front, the other the rear. Sarah remained frozen in the center of the room, fear and adrenaline twisting into a tight knot inside her chest. Then she saw it, through the window. A small object on the porch, reflecting moonlight. A single metal key. Harris retrieved it cautiously, examining it with his flashlight. Dolan hovered behind him. "Recognize it?" Harris turned the key over. "It's not for this cottage." Sarah stepped closer, her voice barely audible. "It's from my old apartment." Harris looked sharply at her. "How can you tell?" "The number," she whispered, pointing to the faint engraving. "2B, that was my door." Dolan muttered something under his breath. "Whoever did this is taunting you." Harris's voice lowered into a tense whisper. "He wants Sarah to know he still has access. He wants her terrified." Dolan stepped outside, scanning the tree line with his flashlight. "I'm calling in my deputies," he said. "We'll sweep the area." Harris grabbed his arm firmly. "No. If your radios are compromised, or if Daniel has someone listening, you'll alert him before you even reach your cruiser." Dolan hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "Then what's the plan?" Harris looked out at the dark forest, jaw tight with determination. "We stay inside until sunrise. We fortify the cottage, then we leave. He's testing the perimeter now, seeing how far he can push us. He won't attack outright, not yet." Sarah trembled. "What if he already has?" She pointed to the music box on the table, still playing its soft lullaby. Dolan's eyes narrowed. "He's been inside?" "More than once," Harris said darkly. They barricaded the doors and windows as best they could. Furniture pushed against frames, curtains sealed tight, every shadow double-checked. Dolan kept watch near the kitchen, Harris near the front. The hours crawled by, thick with silence. Sarah stayed awake by sheer force of terror, her senses sharpened to every creak and rustle. Just when the first faint hint of dawn touched the horizon, a knock shattered the fragile quiet. 3 slow, deliberate taps. Harris's eyes widened. Dolan drew his gun. Sarah felt her breath freeze. The knock came again, calm, controlled, unmistakably human. Harris stepped forward, voice low and lethal. "Daniel," he called through the door, "if it's you, you've just made your first mistake." Chapter 6. The Midnight Footage. The clock struck 12:07 a.m. when the power finally returned to the safe house, flooding the hallways with cold, humming light. A beer blinked rapidly as the sudden brightness stung her eyes. Zohaib was still lying unconscious on the couch, his breathing shallow but steady. The room smelled like burnt wires, and the lingering fear from the anonymous call still clung to the air like smoke. Abir's hands were shaking, not from the cold, but from the feeling that someone had crossed an invisible line. Someone had found them. She drew a deep breath and walked toward the small surveillance room in the corner of the house. It wasn't part of the original building. Saad had installed it when he brought Abir and Zohaib here. A makeshift command center, 4 screens, a tangle of cables, blinking green lights. Abir pulled the chair back and sat, her palms still trembling as she tapped the keyboard. Everything felt wrong. The cameras had gone offline right before the blackout. That shouldn't have been possible. The CCTV system was on a separate backup line. Either it was sabotage, or someone was inside the perimeter. Abir swallowed hard. "Come on," she muttered, trying to recover the footage from the last hour. The loading bar crawled forward, painfully slow. She tapped her foot anxiously, her mind racing with every worst-case scenario. Then, beep! A small thumbnail popped onto the screen. Recorded 11:18 p.m., 11:56 p.m. The file size looked smaller than it should have been. Something was missing. Abir clicked it. The footage opened with grainy night vision. The outer gate looked undisturbed, swaying gently with the wind. The road was empty. A cat darted past the bushes. Nothing unusual. She dragged the timeline forward. The screen glitch flashed. Abir frowned and dragged it again. Another glitch, like something was deliberately skipping. Her heartbeat quickened. She pressed play carefully, watching frame by frame. 11:31 p.m. The bushes on the left rustled. Abir leaned closer. The leaves trembled again. Then, a dark silhouette peeked from behind the brick wall. Only for a split second, but enough to jolt her spine. A tall figure, wearing a hoodie, face hidden in shadows. Not moving toward the house, just watching, staring directly at the camera. Abir instinctively clutched her throat. Her eyes widened as she paused the frame and zoomed. The figure's head was slightly tilted, posture relaxed, like someone observing their prey with calm certainty. "Who are you?" she whispered. She pressed play again. 11:33 p.m. The figure stepped out from behind the wall, but the camera static suddenly exploded across the screen. White noise, distortion, bars of scrambled interference. Then the recording jumped straight to 11:42 p.m. 9 minutes gone. 9 minutes deleted. Abir's breath quickened as she clicked the system logs. They were blank, completely clean. As if someone had accessed the system from inside and manually wiped the sequence. Her hands shook more violently now. She replayed the remaining video. The figure was gone. The road was empty again. Then, at 11:56 p.m., the lights flickered and the camera abruptly shut off. The same second, the electricity died. Abir leaned back in the chair, her head spinning. Someone had been here. Someone had tampered with the system. Someone knew exactly where they were hiding. And her biggest fear wasn't that the intruder might return, but that they already had a reason to watch them. She quickly exported a copy of the footage to a USB drive. The door clicked behind her, and she jerked, heart pounding. But it was Zohaib standing unsteadily, rubbing his forehead. His face was pale, exhausted, but conscious. "Abir, why are you awake? What happened to the lights? She held a finger to her lips. "Not here!" He blinked in confusion, but walked with her to the living room. She guided him to the couch and placed a cushion behind his back. "Zohaib, someone was outside tonight." His eyes widened instantly. "What do you mean? I saw the footage." Her voice cracked. There was a man outside the wall, watching us, and someone hacked the cameras. They deleted part of the recording. Zohaib stiffened. "Did Saad come back? He wouldn't leave you alone without telling me." "No, it wasn't Saad." Abir swallowed. "It was someone else." Zohaib clenched his fists, jaw tightening. "Show me the footage. I copied it." She pulled out the USB. But Zohaib, he looked directly at the camera, like he knew it was there. Zohaib exhaled sharply. "This means we're not dealing with amateurs." Abir nodded. "I think they've been watching us longer than we knew." Zohaib leaned forward, his voice low. "Did you recognize anything? The clothes, the build? Did anything look familiar?" Abir hesitated. For a moment, just a fraction of a second, she thought she had recognized the posture. A slight tilt of the head. The relaxed stance. The familiar height, but that was impossible. She shook the thought away. No, it was too dark. Zohaib looked unconvinced. We need to leave this place soon. If they found us here, this safe house isn't safe anymore. But where will we go? Abir whispered. We can't keep running forever. Zohaib's gaze hardened. Until we know who's after us, we have no choice. Abir leaned back, exhausted. Her eyes burned with unshed tears. She felt like the walls of the house were closing in, suffocating her with every passing second. A stranger had stood outside tonight, watching them in silence while they were unaware, vulnerable. This wasn't random. It was calculated, deliberate, personal. The USB drive felt heavier in her palm now, like it contained more than footage. It contained a warning. Zohaib stood up slowly. Abir, let me check the backyard, just in case. No! She grabbed his arm. What if he's still out there? Zohaib placed his hand gently over hers. I'll be careful, promise. She reluctantly nodded, and he stepped outside with a flashlight. Abir hugged herself tightly and stared at the front door, waiting for him to return. Minutes passed. 5, then 7. She checked the window nervously. The backyard was pitch-uniform darkness. No movement. Her chest tightened. Then suddenly footsteps, fast approaching footsteps. The door swung open. Zohaib entered breathless. Abir, come quickly. Her blood froze. What happened? Zohaib held up a torn piece of cloth, dark, heavy, and slightly damp. I found this caught on the backyard fence, he said. Someone was here recently. Abir touched the fabric. It was thick, like the material of a hoodie. Her legs felt weak. The man outside hadn't just watched them. He had tried to come closer. The night suddenly felt colder. Zohaib locked the door, stepped close and whispered, Whoever he is, he's not done. Abir didn't sleep that night. She couldn't, because every time she closed her eyes, she saw that silhouette staring through the camera, tilting his head, studying her with silent, unsettling curiosity. Chapter 7. The Name in the Shadows. The sun rose reluctantly, as if even daylight feared stepping into the uncertainty that filled the safe house. Pale orange light seeped through the curtains, but it brought no warmth. Abir stood quietly near the window, arms wrapped around herself as Zohaib brewed tea in the kitchen. Neither of them had slept. The night's discovery, the figure outside, the torn piece of hoodie, hung heavily between them like a ghost refusing to leave. Abir's thoughts were tangled. Every sound, every shift of the wind outside felt suspicious. She kept replaying the footage in her mind, the shadow watching them, the 9 minutes mysteriously erased. The worst part wasn't the figure itself. It was the feeling that she had seen that posture before, that she somehow knew him. By the time Zohaib walked toward her with a steaming cup, she was lost in thought. Drink, he said softly, pushing the cup into her shaking hands. You need it. She nodded, forcing a sip. The tea did nothing to calm her nerves. Zohaib watched her closely. Abir, I need you to tell me something. Last night, when you saw the footage, you looked like you recognized something. Abir's heart tightened. I didn't, she said quickly. But Zohaib didn't buy it. Abir, please, we can't afford half-truths right now. She lowered her gaze, gripping the cup tighter. It was probably my imagination. The light was bad. The footage was glitchy. Zohaib stepped closer, voice firm but gentle. Was it someone you know? Her breath caught. A name flashed in her mind, but she refused to say it aloud. Not yet. Before Zohaib could press further, A sharp knock on the door made both of them freeze. 3 slow taps, then silence. Zohaib instinctively stepped in front of Abir. "Stay behind me." He approached the door cautiously, hand hovering near the concealed drawer beside it, where Saad kept a small steel rod for security. The knock came again, this time softer, almost hesitant. Zohaib glanced at Abir. She shook her head. "Don't open it." But Zohaib looked through the peephole first, breath held tight. "It's Saad." Abir exhaled in relief, but her shoulders didn't relax entirely. After last night, trust felt fragile. Zohaib opened the door slightly. Saad entered quickly, eyes serious, forehead beaded with sweat. He locked the door behind him. "I called you both so many times," Saad said, pulling off his jacket. "Why didn't you answer?" "The power was out," Zohaib replied. "Network, too." Saad froze. "What? How?" Zohaib looked at Abir. She nodded for him to explain. "We had a visitor last night," Zohaib said. Saad's face hardened instantly. "What kind of visitor?" Abir swallowed. "Someone was watching us from outside the wall." Saad's jaw tensed. "Did you see him clearly?" "No," Abir replied, "but he was tall, covered and confident." Zohaib stepped forward. He hacked the CCTV, deleted 9 minutes of footage. Saad's eyes widened. 9 minutes? Abir nodded. He knew what he was doing. Saad ran a hand through his hair. "Show me the footage." Abir handed him the USB. He plugged it into his laptop and opened the video. For several minutes, the room was silent, except for the faint whirring of the laptop fan. Saad watched each frame intensely, his eyes narrowing when the silhouette appeared. Then the glitch, then the sudden jump. Saad leaned back slowly. "This is professional work." "We know," Zohaib replied. Saad stayed silent for a moment, as if measuring his next words carefully. Then he looked directly at Abir. "Do you have any idea who he could be?" Abir stiffened. Zohaib watched her intently. "Abir, say it." Her throat felt tight. "I don't know," she whispered. But Saad was sharper than Zohaib. He tilted his head. "You flinched when the figure looked at the camera." Abir said nothing. "Abir," Saad continued, "whoever this is, this doesn't look like someone randomly sent. This looks personal." Abir's breath hitched. Personal. That word sat heavy on her chest. Zohaib stepped closer. "Abir, we're with you. Just tell us the truth." Abir closed her eyes. Just as she parted her lips to speak, Saad's phone buzzed on the table. He picked it up, and his expression changed instantly. A sudden cold silence filled the room. Zohaib frowned. "What is it?" Saad didn't answer immediately. He stared at the message with disbelief, then slowly turned the screen toward them. Abir stepped closer. Her heart dropped. The message was from an unknown number. No name, no profile photo, just a single image, a still frame from last night's CCTV, the silhouette staring directly at the camera. Except this time zoomed, clearer, sharpened, and beneath it a text. "You can run, you can hide, but she knows who I am." Abir felt her legs weaken. She gripped the edge of the table to keep herself from collapsing. Zohaib's blood ran cold. How did they get this footage? It wasn't exported until after the blackout. Saad clenched his jaw, which means they were already inside the system. Abir stared at the image, her heart pounding painfully. The shape of the jawline, the slight forward lean, the eerie calmness in the posture. He wasn't a stranger. He never had been. Zohaib turned to her. "Abir, please, who is this?" Her lips trembled. Her voice shook. "I think," she whispered, "I think it might be someone from my past." The room went silent again. Saad folded his arms. "Someone dangerous." Abir looked down. A tear slipped down her cheek. "Yes." Zohaib's breath caught. "Why didn't you tell us?" "Because I wasn't sure," she said, voice cracking. "Because I prayed I was wrong." Saad sat closer, lowering his voice. "A beer? Who?" She inhaled shakily. "He wasn't supposed to find me," she murmured. "I left everything behind so he couldn't." Zohaib tensed. "Who is he?" A beer finally lifted her gaze, haunted eyes reflecting a name she had buried years ago. "He was someone I trusted once," she whispered. "Someone who shouldn't know I'm alive." The room froze. Saad's expression darkened. Zohaib stepped back in shock. "And if he's the one outside," Abir said, her voice trembling with fear, "then our lives are in far greater danger than we thought." Chapter 8. The man Abir feared morning. Sunlight seeped through the thin curtains, but its warmth never reached the tension filling the room. Abir sat on the edge of the couch, hands clasped tightly, staring at the image still open on Saad's laptop. The sharpened frame of the figure who had watched them the night before. Every detail felt like it was reaching out from the screen to pull her back into a past she had tried so hard to bury. Zohaib and Saad exchanged worried glances, but neither pushed her. They could see how fragile her composure was, hanging by a single thread. It took several minutes before Abir finally inhaled deeply, as if gathering courage from thin air. "His name," she began, but her voice cracked. Saad sat beside her and nodded gently, encouraging her to continue. She swallowed hard. "His name is Rayan." The name dropped like a stone into still water, creating ripples that neither Zohaib nor Saad could hide. Zohaib spoke first, his voice low. "Rayan, who is he to you?" Abir's eyes remained fixed on the photograph as memories she wished she could erase surged back. "I met him years ago. He wasn't like this in the beginning. He was calm, respectful, someone who made you feel seen. But it didn't last. He changed. He became obsessive, possessive. He wanted control over everything, where I went, who I spoke to, what I did." Her voice trembled, and she pressed her nails into her palms to steady herself. "The day I left, I barely escaped." Zohaib's jaw clenched in anger. "And he followed you here?" Abir shook her head. "He shouldn't know I'm here. I never contacted anyone after leaving. I cut every connection." Her breath shook. "But that posture in the footage, the way he tilts his head when he looks at something, I recognized it." Saad leaned forward, hands locked together. "Did he ever threaten you?" Abir looked at him with hollow eyes. "He said once that if I ran, he wouldn't chase immediately. He'd wait for the moment when I felt safe again." Her voice lowered to a whisper. "He wanted the fear to settle before he took it away." Zohaib exhaled sharply, pacing across the room. "So, this is personal. He's not just after you randomly. He's planned this." Saad nodded. "A man like this doesn't appear suddenly. If this is the same Rayan, he must have been watching for a long time." Abir closed her eyes. "Then why reveal himself now?" A sudden vibration from Saad's phone cut through the silence. He grabbed it quickly, expecting another threat, but instead his brows knit in confusion. "It's the CCTV server technician. He came early. He's outside." Zohaib frowned. "Now?" Saad stood. "He wasn't supposed to arrive until afternoon." Abir's stomach twisted. "Are you sure it's him?" Saad looked out through the peephole. "It looks like him. Same uniform, same face as before." Zohaib approached cautiously. "Should we open the door?" Abir shook her head instinctively. "Wait, something feels wrong." Her voice was strained. "Rayan is manipulative. He copies habits, behaviors. If he wanted to get inside, pretending to be someone harmless would be easy." Saad hesitated, then called out through the closed door, "Your ID!" A brief pause, then a voice responded, "Sir, it's me, Danish. The office sent me early because the central system crashed. I need to check your DVR manually." Saad glanced at Zohaib uneasily. Zohaib whispered, "Ask the code we agreed on last time." Saad's voice hardened. "What was the verification code I gave you yesterday?" Silence. Too long. Then finally, I wasn't given any code." Abir's blood ran cold. She grabbed Zohaib's arm. "Don't open it!" The voice outside knocked again, firmer this time, impatient. "Sir, I need to come in." Zohaib stepped back, muscles tensed. Saad moved quietly to the window and peeked through the narrow slit. His breath hitched. "Zohaib," he whispered, "he's not holding any tools. No bag, nothing." The knocking stopped abruptly. Complete silence. Zohaib approached the door, listening. No footsteps, no movement. The corridor outside felt suddenly hollow, as if the person had never been there at all. Saad backed away. "He's gone." Abir clutched her chest, breathing heavily. "He's testing us. He wants to see how scared we are." Zohaib nodded grimly. And now he knows. The atmosphere in the room grew suffocating. It felt as if Rayan's presence lingered in the air, silent, strategic, watching. Abir pulled her knees toward her chest, trying to steady herself. Zohaib knelt beside her. "We'll protect you, I promise." But she shook her head. "You don't understand. Rayan doesn't attack immediately. He breaks a person first, slowly, quietly. He makes them feel isolated, trapped, hopeless." Tears filled her eyes. This is only the beginning. Saad sat at the table, thinking deeply. We need a plan before he strikes again. He already got access to the CCTV. He stood outside without fear. He approached the door today. He exhaled heavily. He's escalating. Zohaib rubbed his face. "We can't stay here. He knows this place." Abir nodded. "He wants us to run. He always did." Saad's brows furrowed. "Why would he want that?" "Because," Abir whispered, staring at the sharpened image on the laptop screen, "when you run, you make mistakes." The three of them fell into a heavy silence, each processing the gravity of what she had said. The room felt colder, as though Rayan's shadow had seeped into the walls. Abir stared at the distorted silhouette again, fighting the growing dread inside her. She could feel him, somewhere close, waiting, calculating. A sudden crack of static from the TV startled everyone. The screen flickered and turned black, then flashed for a split second. A face, not fully visible, just the outline of a jaw, and a familiar tilt of the head. Abir screamed. Zohaib lunged for the remote, turning the TV off instantly. Saad rushed to check the wiring, but Abir sat frozen, trembling uncontrollably. "He's in the system," she whispered. "He's watching us already." Zohaib held her shoulders. "We're getting out of here, now." And as they moved quickly around the room gathering essentials, a realization settled like ice inside all three of them. Rayan wasn't chasing. He was closing in. Chapter 9. The Trap Within the Escape. The apartment had never felt so small. Every shadow, every corner, every flicker of light seemed loaded with danger. Saad moved swiftly, unplugging devices and checking the windows while Zohaib secured their bags. Abir sat on the couch for a moment, trying to steady her breath, but her mind whirled with fragmented fears. Rayan's voice from the past, the haunting message, the silhouette outside. She had known he was intelligent, calculated, patient. But seeing him breach, their systems so effortlessly made her realize she had underestimated how far he was willing to go. Zohaib crouched in front of her. "Abir, can you walk?" She nodded weakly, pushing herself to her feet. Her legs trembled, but she forced herself to stay upright. Zohaib brushed his hand against her arm in reassurance. "We will get you somewhere safe, I promise." Saad grabbed his keys and motioned them toward the door. "We'll use the basement exit. Fewer cameras, fewer eyes." He paused before unlocking the door. "And don't speak unless necessary. If Rayan cloned devices, he might have bugged something." Abir's heartbeat pounded so loudly, she wondered if Rayan could hear it through the walls. Zohaib stepped in front of her protectively as they walked down the narrow corridor. Every step felt like stepping deeper into Rayan's territory. The building was eerily quiet. No distant voices, no running water, not even the usual hum from neighboring apartments. It felt abandoned, as if everyone had disappeared, as if Rayan had cleared the path for them deliberately. Saad pushed open the stairwell door and led them down. The echo of their footsteps magnified the tension. Abir clutched the railing tightly, each step testing her resolve. At the basement level, the air was colder, heavy with dust and faint dampness. Saad used a spare key to open the service exit that led toward the back alley. But the moment he unlocked it, he stopped. The door had already been unlatched from the outside. Saad's breath stilled. "Someone's been here." Zohaib tensed, pulling Abir back slightly. He pushed the door open only an inch, but the metallic creak echoed unnaturally loud. The alley beyond was empty, sunlight filtering in weakly. Zohaib scanned it carefully. No movement, no footsteps, no threat. "Let's go," he whispered. But as they stepped out, Abir suddenly paused. A small object sat on the ground near the dumpster, almost deliberately placed. A folded piece of paper, clean, crisp, untouched by dirt. Her stomach sank. Zohaib noticed her staring. "Abir, what is it?" She didn't want to answer, but Saad had already walked ahead, bending to pick it up. Zohaib tried to stop him, but it was too late. Saad unfolded it. A single sentence was written inside. "You're walking the path I designed." Saad's breath caught. Zohaib grabbed the paper, reading it twice before shoving it deep into his jacket. "This means he's close," Zohaib said through clenched teeth. "We have to move now." The three of them hurried through the alley toward Saad's car. Abir kept glancing behind her, feeling phantom footsteps at her back. Her lungs tightened with fear. Zohaib unlocked the car and motioned her inside quickly. But as she reached for the handle, she froze. A streak of white on the window. A fingerprint. Not hers, not Zohaib's, not Saad's, just one. Placed carefully, deliberately, almost like a signature. Abir staggered back. Zohaib rushed to her. "What happened? What is it?" She pointed with a trembling hand. Zohaib's face darkened. "He touched the car." Saad cursed under his breath. "We need to leave. If he wanted us harmed, he'd have done it already. He's toying with us, trying to control our panic." Abir's voice quivered. "This is how he works. He creates fear until you feel like your mind is slipping." Zohaib helped her into the back seat, then climbed in beside her, ready to shield her from anything. Saad started the engine and pulled out of the alley. But the further they drove, the more Abir sensed something was wrong. The road felt too empty, too silent. Every turn seemed strangely predictable, like she had driven it before in nightmares. Saad kept glancing into the rearview mirror. "Abir, tell us more about him. We need every detail." She swallowed. "Rayan doesn't attack from the front. He believes fear is more effective than violence. He manipulates surroundings, timing, information." She stared out the window. He once said the best trap is the one where the victim thinks they're escaping. Zohaib's eyes widened slightly at her words. A thought hit him. Saad, where exactly are we going? Saad hesitated. To an old farmhouse outside the city, a safe place. Abir's heart dropped. Safe. Rayan loved that word. She leaned forward suddenly. How far is it? 30 minutes, Saad replied. Abir's breath shook. Saad, did you tell anyone we were going there? No, he said firmly, just you two. Zohaib narrowed his eyes at the empty road. Then why is no one around? Why are these streets clear at this time of day? A chill crept through the car. Abir suddenly remembered something Rayan once told her, something she had dismissed as his strange philosophy. A perfect trap is where every exit leads back to me. Her skin went cold. Saad, she whispered urgently, stop the car. Saad looked confused. What? Why? Stop the car, she cried louder. Zohaib joined her. Saad, pull over, now. Saad's confusion turned into alarm. He hit the brakes and the car skidded to a halt on the lonely road. For a moment, the world held its breath. No birds, no wind, just the hum of the engine. Abir grabbed Saad's arm. Rayan wanted us to leave. He left clues to push us out. He touched the door. He left a note. He made the technician come. He wanted us to take this exact route. Zohaib's chest tightened. Saad, how did you choose the farmhouse? Saad's expression changed, subtle but unmistakable. Abir's voice trembled. Saad, how long have you known about Rayan? The silence inside the car became suffocating. Zohaib stared at Saad in disbelief. Saad kept his hands on the steering wheel, too tightly. Abir's voice cracked. Saad, please tell me you're not... Saad exhaled slowly. His voice was calm. Too calm. Abir, you weren't supposed to find out like this. Zohaib's entire body tensed, ready to move. Abir felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Saad finally turned to face them, his expression unreadable. I didn't betray you, he said quietly. I just made a promise long before you came back into the picture. A chilling realization washed over Abir. Rayan wasn't alone. He never had been. And now Saad's eyes held the answer she had feared most. Chapter 10. The Revelation and the Escape. The farmhouse loomed ahead like a shadow waiting to swallow them whole. Saad drove cautiously, every inch of the road scanned in silence. The tension in the car was almost suffocating, the air thick with fear and unspoken questions. Abir's heart pounded in her chest, each beat reminding her that Rayan was still out there, watching, waiting, a predator calculating its next move. Zohaib sat beside her, his jaw tight, fists clenched on his knees, every nerve alert. Saad gripped the steering wheel as if it were a lifeline, his face taut and pale. As they approached the farmhouse, Abir noticed the faintest hint of movement in the shadows near the tree line. Her breath hitched, and Zohaib leaned forward, scanning with her. It's him, she whispered. The figure was barely visible, blending into the darkness, yet the posture was unmistakable. The tilt of the head, the deliberate calmness. He was studying them, timing their steps, as if the road itself belonged to him. Saad slowed the car to a crawl. Don't panic, he said quietly, but his voice betrayed tension. We're almost there. Abir's hands gripped the seat edge, knuckles white. She could feel Rayan's presence even at this distance, a suffocating weight pressing down on her chest. Every instinct screamed that the trap was still active, that the farmhouse itself might not be a sanctuary, but a cage meticulously planned to corral them. They reached the farmhouse, and Saad parked in a shadowed corner, far from the front entrance. Stay low, he instructed. Zohaib opened his door first, gesturing for Abir to follow closely. Every step toward the building felt like stepping deeper into the jaws of the predator. A faint creak from the wooden porch made Abir flinch. She clutched Zohaib's arm tightly. "He's here," she murmured. "I can feel him." Saad ushered them inside. The farmhouse was dark, almost sterile, the faint smell of dust and wood filling the air. He moved quickly to lock the doors and block the windows as much as possible. Abir's eyes darted around the room, noting every possible hiding place, every shadow that could conceal a threat. Zohaib remained close, scanning every corner. Their nerves were taut, every sense primed for the slightest movement. Saad pulled the laptop from his bag and set it on the table. "We need to understand how much he knows," he said. "If Rayan has access to the CCTV and communications, we need a countermeasure." Abir nodded, forcing herself to focus. She inserted the USB containing the footage and began analyzing frame by frame, searching for anomalies or traces of tampering. Every glitch, every missing second was a puzzle piece pointing toward Rayan's meticulous planning. Hours passed in tense silence. Then a sound, soft, almost imperceptible, reached their ears. The faint scraping of shoes against gravel. All three froze. Zohaib whispered, "He's testing the perimeter again." Saad grabbed a crowbar and moved to the door. Abir felt herself drawn to the window despite the danger. Through the darkness, she saw him, Rayan standing still, observing. His presence was magnetic, terrifying. She felt a chill run down her spine, as if his gaze alone could see into her very soul. Saad returned inside, shaking his head. "He's not coming in. Not yet. He wants to break our focus first." Abir sat down heavily, heart racing. "He's always done this," she whispered. "He manipulates fear, uncertainty. He makes you question every decision." Zohaib rested his hand on hers, grounding her. "We'll survive this," he said firmly. "We're not alone." But Abir knew that survival depended on more than courage. It depended on outsmarting Rayan, predicting his moves before he could execute them. She stared at the laptop screen, tracing the figure's movements in the footage, trying to anticipate where he would strike next. Suddenly, a detail she had overlooked clicked. The tilt of his head when observing the cameras, the pattern of deleted footage, the subtle cues left behind. "He's not improvising," she murmured. "He has a method. Every move we make is part of the game he planned." Zohaib's gaze hardened. "Then we play it on our terms. No mistakes, no assumptions." Saad nodded. "We'll create a diversion. Force him to reveal his position." Abir felt the adrenaline surge. "How?" she asked, voice steady despite her fear. Saad pulled out a small device, a signal jammer they had used in previous operations. "We disrupt his surveillance. If he can't see us, we can move." Minutes later, the plan was in action. Saad activated the jammer. Lights flickered briefly as the interference spread through the farmhouse. Abir, Zohaib and Saad moved swiftly, exiting through a concealed side door, while Rayan's line of sight was temporarily blinded. The tension in every step was unbearable, but instinct and careful calculation guided them. They reached a nearby vehicle, loaded their bags, and Saad started the engine. As they drove away, Abir caught sight of him again. Rayan stood at the edge of the tree line, motionless. But she knew he was calculating, already adjusting his plans, already plotting the next phase. A shiver ran through her, but this time she held onto it as resolve rather than fear. "Where now?" Zohaib asked quietly. Abir exhaled slowly, finally allowing herself a measure of calm. "Somewhere he won't find us immediately. We keep moving, stay unpredictable." Saad glanced at her. reading the determination in her eyes. "We'll need resources, contacts, and a plan to end this." Abir nodded. "And we will. Rayan can manipulate fear, but he can't control us forever. He can't predict everything." Zohaib reached over and held her hand firmly. "We stick together. That's our advantage." Hours later, safely away from the farmhouse, Abir allowed herself to lean back in the seat, exhaustion and relief mingling. She knew the danger wasn't over. Rayan was still out there, intelligent, patient, and relentless. But for the first time in weeks, she felt a glimmer of control. She had faced the fear, anticipated the moves, and taken action. The game had changed, and now she was no longer just the prey. As they drove toward an uncertain horizon, Abir glanced at the darkening forest behind them, where shadows lingered and secrets waited. She whispered under her breath, "This isn't the end, but it's our turn to play." Zohaib squeezed her hand. Zard started plotting the next safe location. And somewhere, far away, Rayan watched, already aware of their escape, already planning his next move. But this time, Abir knew. She would not be caught unprepared. The hunter had underestimated his prey, and in that knowledge, she found the strength to keep moving forward, toward safety, toward clarity, and toward the eventual confrontation that would end the nightmare once and for all.